We are
We're
live!
live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Show Must Go On line. Today's guest is Jen Sandler. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm here in New York. How are you? I knew you were in Seattle. You've been in Seattle for like 7 months now.
It is crazy. Yeah, like the day Broadway shut down, I called John, my boyfriend, and I was like, so I think, should I just go over there? And he was like, yeah. So I've been here since 2 days after Broadway shut down.
Wow.
It is crazy. But like being in New York, I mean, I've read and I've seen but like from your firsthand experience, what has it been like over the last few months?
I mean, I'm in Hell's Kitchen, and that it took me a good 6 weeks before I could even take a walk to the theater district because
Yeah.
it's been hard. And I'm not gonna lie and say it hasn't. It's got a lot better. Like now I would say Hell's Kitchen is the most hopping neighborhood as far as outdoor dining. But
Yeah.
there was a 2 week period where I probably didn't leave my house at all, which looking back, I'm like, why did you do that to yourself? But didn't even take a walk,
Right.
didn't do anything. And yeah, it's so weird because I feel like there's people I'm now seeing for the first time in 6 months, and we don't think about it right away because it's like, oh, I've Zoomed with you, I've done this with you, and we've found a way to not be distant in a time where I have not hugged, I've only hugged 3 people in the last 6 months. It's crazy. Yeah. So I mean, I grew up in New Jersey and I couldn't even go home for a while because my parents work in healthcare and they were like, don't go home.
Right.
And now I've gone home. The only people I've hugged in 6 months are my parents and my 3.5-year-old baby cousin. And that's what it's, sacrifices to go back to how we want to be.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I mean, it's such a weird thought and comparison, but I've been here on this, it's lucky because, this cute little cabin, but there is this really nice backyard. But for months, I didn't leave that backyard. And people would say why don't you go into town? And it's like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'd rather not risk it. I think I don't know about you, but for me, there's been these I go back and forth in stages of I'm just so nervous that the idea of oh no, it seems like there's a little feedback. Are you watching this also on YouTube?
No.
Weird feedback. Let me see. I'm gonna
I know the rules. I use StreamYard too.
I never have these things. I'm gonna mute myself and I'm gonna mute you. All right. Let's see if this is better. You get it. You get it.
Yeah.
And this actually goes in perfectly into what we're going to talk about, which is theater during the pandemic and everything during the pandemic. You can only make things as perfect as you try, and sometimes there are things out of your control. And at least for me, over the last few months, I've had to let go of things that normally would be in my control if we were doing an in-person interview and I had my microphone and I had the setup. And now I'm sometimes things just don't, technology doesn't always agree with us. So can you talk about that from your perspective?
Oh my God, yeah. So I mean, I use StreamYard, this platform we're using right now, all the time because I'm hosting things with my company, and it's hard because it's all about the right mic. It's how is their video? It's so are you wearing headphones? And it's hard because then the biggest thing I laugh about with this platform is you can't talk over another person. So it's no, we always say it's the View. So you were just talking and I'm like, yeah. And I'm nodding because you can't, everyone cancels out if you talk at the same time. And that's that's not something you think about in real life where you have to it's kind of manners in a really cute way. Kind of.
That. Yeah. I also realized this helped me realize, let's see how this works. I have this new little microphone.
Headphones and microphones, yeah, they are the best thing for streaming is what I found.
That was the headphone. This is live theater. Anything can happen.
Literally. No, I've had the craziest things happen.
All right. I meant to this was bought yesterday, so
Ooh. I'm breaking it.
Yeah, I'm breaking it in. I don't know this computer so well. I've literally never put a microphone in here. This is so crazy. All right, stand by, friends. I think that's a headphone jack. This feels so ridiculous, but I appreciate that it's with you because if anyone gets it, it's a producer.
Oh my God. I had last night on my show, I had the amazing Sarna Lapine, director of Sunday in the Park with George, was on, and she like had these headphones that made her sound like Gollum, and we like made her take them out live on air, and I was like, Sarna, I love you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I might need another jack for this. Let me nod ahead if you hear me here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You can't hear me.
I can hear you, but it's like a little, it's like pre-Gollum.
Oh, well, you know what? This will be a project.
I can hear you great right now, just for the record.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that we went through that journey together.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we've gotten closer. It's
mm-hmm.
And I just want to shout out, I see Winter the Potato is commenting. This is from an earlier thing, and I don't know whose username that is, but that's so good.
I love your username. I love potatoes with everything.
With everything. Potatoes, it's not the same thing, but it's making me think of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. How were your high holidays?
They were like a little sad, honestly, because like I normally like, you know, it's like I'm not someone where like I'm religiously Jewish, but like I love the culture of it. And like every big holiday, like the big four, I always like really look forward to like with me and my extended family. And I like, it was only my parents and my brother this year, and it was sad.
Yeah, same here. And you're going to hear Slim barking. I'm going to mute myself when I'm not talking. It's okay, bud. But once again, it's the fun joys of live theater and live interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all at home. And so if you have a pet, you know, Slim's here and I love him so much. And he's just going to be barking. And that's the way it is. Yeah, I agree. It's, you know, it's funny, we have an apple tree in the backyard, and it was so nice, and I felt very at one with Rosh Hashanah, being like, oh, like I can celebrate this holiday and literally just go to the backyard, flip, and I pick apples. He loves playing fetch with it, which is really just I throw him the apple and he goes and eats it.
Aww.
So that's been really fun.
I think it's going to be like this for a while, and it's sad because then I Thanksgiving's like my favorite holiday, and my dad's like, oh, we're we're probably not going to have our big normal one, and I'm like, are you sure? So it's like sacrifices. It sucks. I hope we're where we want to be by Passover. That would be the nice dream.
Wow, that is to think that we'll have 2 Passovers in quarantine.
God.
That's a lot. And
I had to order because I was like the beginning. I remember I like ordered brisket and matzo ball soup from a diner because I was desperate. Because it was like when I wasn't allowed to go to my parents' house. Yeah, because it was like when the pandemic was crazy.
Yeah, actually, so John and I we're about like an hour outside of Seattle right now, but the convenient thing about being Jewish and the nice Jewish community throughout the world really is that you can be like, hey, I'm near Seattle and I have no Passover supplies. And and over here, they're like, no one sold matzah. No one sold like anything. In Seattle, yes, there was a bunch, but over here there wasn't. And so like through the help of like some of my Kilat Harlem friends, like we connected with a rabbi and he like gave us a Seder plate, and in this like weird feeling of everything being so different, it was also really nice to have this like similarity that like you can always be taken care of, you know?
Yeah, and like my parents like sent me a PDF of their Haggadah, and we still did the Seder on Zoom. Yeah.
So cute.
I know.
Cute. So, okay, I like that we've been kind of just like chatting a little bit, but I want to know more about like your history. I know we both are like theater fans that grew up and then went into the industry, but what's your origin story? Tell me like your first shows and what got you into wanting to be a producer and in this whole world.
Yeah, I'm just gonna turn my ring light down for a sec because I think I'm looking a little sunny. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we both grew up as fans, and I think we both realized we were in some of the same fandoms after we became friends. So I think that's really cool. I still feel like I look like very light, right?
There's, it's the same thing I was just talking about.
Yeah.
Like you have a little Phantom of the Opera like going on, but
my God.
Okay, wait, try turning it down a little.
I just turned, if you think my natural light got extra crazy.
Yeah, so what I've noticed is I keep all the blinds covered when I'm using my ring light so that the only light is the ring light coming in.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to turn off the light really quick.
Standing by. Hello, everyone. This is Shoshana. If you have any questions, feel free to just drop them in. It's a fun time. Hey, like I said, this is fun. It's easy going. Let's see.
Let's see.
How are you feeling?
That's even worse. Hold on.
And it's funny because, this is all we can do. I hope you're entertained by our technology mishaps. I think, honestly, are you able to turn your camera a little bit? Because if you go like just to the left or right, like you could maybe just not use that ring light at all, and your next is probably going to be your best bet.
Okay, this is a little better.
Yeah, I'm digging that.
Yeah. Anyway, oh my God. Okay, I think it's just my sunlight is crazy right now.
Your sunlight's pretty strong.
Yeah.
You can either be totally in and washed out.
There we go. Okay, so anyway, speaking of that, so yeah, I'm just going to go right back into it. Technical difficulties. So both of us kind of grew up as fans, and I think I always say this to people. So many people that end up in the business as producers and writers and basically anything that isn't an actor, stage manager, or even director, it takes us longer sometimes to end up where we do because we don't know there's other paths. So I know for me, I was one of those people where I was like, I'm going to be an actor and that's that. And I'm going to audition for musical theater schools. Only got into one. Went to school for musical theater, realized by the end of my freshman year, like, I don't think I'm very good at this. And to rewind a little, because I think I like fast forwarded really fast. Like I was that kid that always just kind of grew up. I'm like still adjusting this light. But like I was that kid that always grew up in the theater. Like I grew up literally 20 minutes from New York City, from like Times Square. So I was that kid where I'm from a super, super theater town. So I've kind of always had it in my blood. I'm from a school where we were like required to be in the musical from 3rd grade and on, and like Fiddler on the Roof in 3rd grade, I got to be like a villager. 4th grade, I was an Oliver and I was an orphan. And then 5th graders always got the part. So I was in the Music Man in 5th grade. I was one of the Shin daughters. I wasn't the one that said ye gods. I was Gracie, the other one. So I kind of did that and like kind of got the theater bug really, really hard. Did theater all through school. I went to my first Broadway show when I was 6 years old. It was Beauty and the Beast. I'm a huge Disney nerd. I know you know that. I have my Frozen water bottle right now. I have on the side. But it just kind of has always been a thing where like I run into people that I went to high school with and they're like, you're doing theater still, right? And I'm like, yeah. So I just was one of those people where like I've always known I wanted to do theater as a career for like as long as I could remember. There was never a backup plan. There was never anything I wanted to do more. It was always, that was the thing. And then when I realized when I got to college, I don't want to be an actor. I can't memorize lines at all. I'm not a very good dancer. I'm not getting cast in these shows. I kind of had this like epiphany and then was like, I'm going to do an internship in something and just kind of see what happens. And I got advised by one of my theater teachers, like, oh, you should try development, which I don't know. Do you know what development is? So it's basically in every off-Broadway theater, they have a development department and they fundraise for theaters. So I started in that and realized I really, really liked it. And like my father's a doctor, and like both of my parents have always been supportive of my father's always been the one that's like, are you sure you want to do this? And he was thrilled I wanted to do theater admin now. Oh my God, I like this part of the theater. And then I really liked development. I got an internship. My first internship was at MCC Theater, which is run by the amazing Bernie Telsey. Worked somewhere else, and then had a residency at Playwrights Horizons my first year out of school. I spent the entire season there. Still one of the greatest experiences I've ever had. And I had that time, and then kind of realized at the end, I really like this, but like the big con of development is you literally are asking for money all the time. You have no artistic say with anything. So I kind of had this year where I was like, oh, like I'm going to still try it though. And like would get really, really far in all of these like job like interviews I did for development and theater companies, and then like wouldn't get hired. And then I kind of had this epiphany because the year before when I was working at Playwrights, there was this woman that I really wanted to be introduced to, and her name was Jennifer Ashley Tepper. Have you heard of her?
Jennifer Ashley Tepper,
Who?
tell me more.
So yeah, so I had been hearing about her, and she just had started at 54 Below at that point. She had gone to college with my cousin, Matt Winman, who's a theater critic. And I was like, you have to introduce me to Jennifer Tepper. And he's like, oh, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, she makes it cool to be a fan, but also she does everything like I'm trying to do. Can you please do it? And he was like, I don't know. And then we were like at Rosh Hashanah that year, actually. And I was like, can you please introduce me to Jen Tepper? And I don't know if she knows this story, actually. So if she watches this, I'm going to laugh. But he's like, my cousin's like thinking, he's like, I don't know. And my mom's like, please just do it. She will not shut up about this. So that year we all had lunch one day, and she became my mentor then. She's still my mentor, and I love her. But I kind of had this epiphany, like, I'm not getting jobs in development. I'm really bored by it anyway, but I really like talking to people. I think I need to be a producer, because producers raise money, but also they have an artistic say. So it's building the best of both worlds with what I want to be doing. So I kind of went into her office this one day, and like, this is not, I tell this story a lot when I like talk to young theater groups. And I always say like, this is not how it normally happens. Don't think you can go into someone's office and say you want to do something. But I go to her office and I'm like, I think I want to be a producer. And she's like, that's a really good idea. And 54 Below, who I frequently work at, they're run by producers who also have a producing office. She's like, our office is about to do Penn and Teller. Do you want to work on it as an assistant? And I'm like, sure. And then she's like, what 54 Below shows do you want to assist on? I can hook you up and like make sure you work on those. And I'm like, I sent her a list, and she made that happen. And that's how I ended up, my current job at 54 Below is because I assisted so many people and made connections. And she just has been someone who has, like, I always say, like, I open the doors because I try to, but she's someone that helped me open those doors in such a big way. And like, I hope everyone has a Jen Tepper who they can go to. I've turned into that for some younger theater people now, and it's been like one of the greatest things, because we need the next generation. And it's weird. I think we've been out of college long enough where like there's another generation behind us now, and we need to help them. So they, especially now, to think about like the current grads who like have graduated even like this year, 2020, and like the last few years before, they're just getting started. And this pandemic happened, and this business is so much about connection. It's so much about who you know, and to just get started and have this happen. Like I cannot, like, I can't fathom how it is. And I want to be here for these people now. Like, I want to know how I can help, because it's Jen Tepper is someone I've now worked under. I've worked with, I produced Broadway Bounty under with her. She's just someone I'm so proud to call a friend. And you need people that'll take chances on you like that, so you can get to where you want to be, who will let you mess up, let you learn, let you be a part of something. And now my light is good.
It's the Jen Tepper effect.
Honestly.
But I really love that story for so many reasons. One, it's like, sometimes you know that what's in your heart is gonna happen, and it's gonna happen. And you just need to find the right avenue. So you'll like try different things, and you know, just because that didn't that's not going to be your future doesn't mean that wasn't a great part of your journey. And that's probably one of the biggest things I try to tell younger people is like, if there's a good opportunity, even if it's not necessarily exactly where you want to go, but it can help you build experiences and meet people and try out different things, like go for it, because all of my past experiences have helped me get to where I am today. And I can like pinpoint so many different things, like, oh, my experience working here helped me with this, and it gave me the confidence for that, or it made me realize I don't like doing that. And that's a really valuable experience to have.
Yeah, I feel like everything happens for a reason, and you're meant to do it for a reason. And I mean, I was Zooming with this boy earlier in the pandemic who was like 21 from Australia and like wants to come here and intern. And he's like, what is the biggest piece of advice you can give me? And I said, when you're that young in the business, say yes to everything. Say yes, learn from everything. Some of them you might regret you took later on. Some of them you're going to be so happy you did, but like you will be better from learning as much as you can.
So true. Yes, Slim agrees, in case if you can't hear.
I'm glad. Dogs are my fave, so if a dog agrees with me, I'm doing something right.
Yes, exactly. So tell us more about kind of like the nitty gritty. You mentioned Broadway Bounty Hunter, which I loved, and that was fun because, right? Like, and we saw each other and we spoke about it a lot. So what is it like to be on the producing team of a show off Broadway?
Yeah, it's so crazy because, you know, when you're off Broadway, you can be off Broadway in a nonprofit venue the way a Playwrights Horizons is, and then you have a commercial run of a show, and that's what Broadway Bounty Hunter was. And when you are commercially putting on a show, you have to raise all the money. It's not nonprofit donations. It's not the theater putting everything up. It's you raising money. So you have to pound the pavement. You have to find investors. It's like one of the craziest things I've ever done, but like one of the best things I've ever done, because it was something like Jen, for example, had known I wanted to commercially produce a show for a while, and kind of came to this and she's like, do you want to be a part of this team? And I had to think about it. And I was like, you know, it's Jen, it's Joe Iconis. And Joe Iconis is someone, like, I was thinking about this last night about one of my like full circle moments. And like Joe is someone I would like blast blue hair, as I'm sure everyone in theater did. Like I would blast blue hair when I was like a little baby college student. And like, even like blue hair has been long enough around that like even the end of high school, like that Krista Rodriguez cover of it, not even cover, I think she was the first person to sing it, but like I would play that all the time. And he's someone like this I've always known as like this like awesome writer. And like he's someone like, he's like lives in my neighborhood. I see him all the time. He's a lovely friend now. And I just was like, I have to do this. And we ended up closing early, but I learned so much about the show. I learned so much about producing. It was such a great group of people. I wouldn't regret anything.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love Joe. Most people who have seen this series knows how much I love Joe and Lauren and that whole squad.
And Annie Golden. Annie Golden is someone, again, where I've worked with her a few times now, and she is a beam of light. She's the loveliest person.
Yeah, it's that was such a fun show, and I listened to it all the time. Yeah. Actually, have you heard of this show, Teenage Bounty Hunter, on Netflix?
Oh my God, yes. So when that happened, I immediately sent it to Joe and Jen and Allison, our other lead producer, and Lance Rubin and Jason Sweet Tooth Williams, who wrote the show with Joe. And I was like, look at this, they stole our idea. Yeah. Oh yeah.
we were just watching it the other day, and I was like, it would be so much better if I could just like play Broadway Bounty Hunters cast album underneath watching it. Okay, I think we've got something there.
Well, speaking of Young People, the musical, Jasmine Forsberg was just on my show last night for New York Theater Barn. So little reunion of Young People, the musical.
Young people. That's so good. Yes, I love that. And I remember Joe and Jason Robert Brown had like this tweet exchange about Young People, the musical, and 13.
Yeah.
Another show that I grew up and was very formative.
Well, I have a lot of friends from now, and it's very kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And love the people from that show. Love the show.
Love the show so much. 13 is one of those fun ones that like it was the first show I think I ever saw in previews.
Oh, really? What was mine? No, I have to think. It was in college.
Yeah, well, I only remember that because so a lot of my Jewish camp friends and I would walk around the city and I tell the story of like we would go box office to box office, like who had student rush, who had regular rush, and someone was handing out a flyer for 13, and my friend Jackie was like, "Oh, I heard good things about that," and so we went, and it was so cool, and especially because we had student tickets. Tickets were like very reasonable. And we loved it so much. We went back, went after it was open, and they'd cut a song. And that was like my first experience really understanding, the things like when they're in previews actually are still being updated like day to day. And
well, theater is a living thing. That's like the thing I always tell people when I'm talking about writing.
It was good times. I listen to that cast album all the time. What would you say? What cast albums do you listen to, or maybe like go through your genesis of like from being younger and now?
God,
I know.
You know what I'm already gonna say too. I like the show that defines my teenage years, that like is who I am as a person, like to this day still, a Spring Awakening. That was like the first show where I was like, oh, you can like there's fandoms for theater. So I remember watching that show on The View. It was like December 2007. I'm saying 2007, 2006. It was December 2006. It was on The View. And I'm like, my mother used to tape The View for me when a Broadway show was on. And I like come home from 10th grade that day and I watched it and I'm like mesmerized. I watched the video all weekend and then saw the show 6 times on Broadway throughout its run, became that girl that like Jonathan Groff was like, oh, nice to see you again. And then I would like freak out. And there's this message board called The Guilty Ones. I think you were on that, right?
I probably dabbled in it. I wish I like were more into the theater fandom that I knew that's online that it is today, but please continue that story.
But there was this message board called The Guilty Ones that was like the Spring Awakening like fan forum. And I was on that. My username, in case anyone watching, was on that forum. I was SA Junkie 531. I was like obsessed, was on it every day. Fun fact, Alex Boniello and I became friends on that platform. And he was like this crazy. He's like, I really love the show. We're from like around the same town of New Jersey. And he like was obsessed with like John Gallagher Jr. And he's like, my dream would be to play Moritz. And we all know he ended up doing that on Broadway. So I think he's a friend today now still. And we were like, oh, remember that time we met on a fan forum? And then my best friend Sophie and I were also on that forum together. And then years later met and we're like, were you on the forum? Were you? What was your username? Oh my God, I know exactly who you are. So that forum, like I like would make people like albums when they left the show. I just was like obsessed. It defined who I am. That was kind of like the first thing. And then like I also, I had a phase with Next to Normal where I saw that 4 times, was very obsessed with that. I had a Wicked phase like every child. I had a Rem phase like every child. And kind of those were like the big things where I'm like, I was a crazy fan. I feel like since I like left college and like joined the business, the show that's really like got me in a way that shows used to back then is like American Psycho, actually. Did you see that?
I didn't, but that I was not expecting it to go that way.
Yeah. No, that's a show. Like I saw it twice. It didn't run that long, but like it is a Duncan Sheik show. So I was like, oh my God, Spring Awakening. And it's a show that like you either loved or you like hated upon hated. And I just fell in love with the show, saw it in previews on a comp from work and was like, I don't know how this is going to be. And then went back on my birthday that year, actually, because I liked it that much. And then they closed like that same week. And it's just a show, like, I think it was ahead of its time. It's a show people still don't get. I Zoom watched it with a bootleg.
That's you?
The beginning of quarantine, I was like to a few people, I'm like, hey, want to go on Zoom? And I'm going to screen share the American Psycho bootleg and you can tell me what you think. And like people, my friend I originally saw it with was like, this is great. I'm so glad we watched this again. And like the rest of my friends did not like it.
Wow.
So it's just one of those shows where like you either like it's a culty show. I'll say that. And that's like been my biggest experience since then, where I'm like, oh, you can still be a fan while you're in the business.
Yes. That's part of my whole brand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it's like I can't hide. I mean, I could hide when I'm being like very professional, like at an opening night. But like when I'm talking with friends, like I love Broadway. I can't get enough of Broadway.
Yeah. And I feel like, you know, one thing also, like, to talk about Jen Tepper for one more minute, I think one thing she does so well that made me want to know her way back when, I was like, she works in the business, but she knows how to be a fan still. And I think we should all, and I say this to younger people too, like, when you join the business, don't think you have to get jaded and not, like, I think what's so cool about it, and I say this, you know, doctors can't be fanboys and fangirls of their business the way like we can work in our business and be fans of it in like such a pure way. And it's so like we're the only business I can think of, like the theater and music and like film business and TV, where we can do this. And it's like that's why art is so important, and we have to be fans of each other for like to keep doing it.
And that's such a good point too, because like you'll have a 54 Below show and you'll message me like, hey, I have this thing going on. I know you like Legally Blonde the musical, let's say. And you're like, yes, I like that very much. And so being a fan and showing your fandom helps in the business, because there's so many things that it's more fun that way. I mean, you can of course do your job if you're not a fan, and there are a lot of people who do. But if that's like a part of who you are, it's such a fun way to connect with more people and like be true to yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're not a fan of anything, or like you never had your fanboy fangirl stage, you're lying. You're lying.
The Spring Awakening thing, I don't know if you've seen this on Twitter, but there are like some people, I don't understand the youth sometimes, who are like, oh, this niche show.
Oh, I knew you were gonna say that. Yeah, I'm like, girl, where were you in 2006 when I was crying? Like, no, yeah.
It's just like, come on. And the amount of times I've seen that View video and like their Tony's performance, oh my goodness.
God. I just like that show. Good. I love that show. I love everything about that show. It's always going to be like my number one.
Yeah. Now I just miss theater so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jen. It's but just to go back on that for a second, having a favorite show growing up that is actually so good and you can listen to this day, whether it's the original cast or, you know, a different iteration, it's just the music will always like hold this special place in your heart.
Yeah.
And do you ever feel like, especially now that we're in quarantine and Broadway is closed and theater's dark, except for like these online things, do you find yourself going to cast albums more or not so much?
I think it depends on the album. I would say definitely yes, but I feel like there's some albums where like I emotionally can't let myself listen right now. Like Jen Tepper and I were saying this actually, that we like can't listen to Iconis albums really as much right now because it makes us like sad for what was before this. And like I remember I like hardcore listened to the Bounty Hunter album the week it came out, and then I haven't touched it since.
Oh, that's
and then
so
like
hard.
and then like Jagged Little Pill was my last show before the shutdown, and like listened to it a little and like listen to it sometimes still, but it makes me think. Yeah. So it depends on the show. I mean, I was listening to Emoji Land in the shower this morning, so I do listen to cast albums all the time still. It's just it depends. It's an emotional thing.
Yeah. It's honestly such a good point though, because some of your favorite things, if you're listening to it now and you in another world you would be actually attending it, that's what's so tough.
Yeah, because I was like, remember when I produced this Broadway show last summer and got to see all of my friends all the time and like got to make this living thing happen, and now it's like, oh, this album is out, but we're not where we were.
Yeah. That cast album's so good though. I jam out.
No, it's great. It turned out so great.
Yeah. But I totally understand where you're coming from, because it's different than listening to something that you can just be a fan of without having that piece of your heart that you worked so hard on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, theater. So
theater.
tell me about your love of Disney, which we know so much about, and and just like you, if I remember correctly, you typically go every year. Is that right?
So that's actually sort of right.
Okay.
So I usually go every other year. And that's just like always been like what my family has done. We'll do like a year of Disney, a year of like somewhere else, like exotic or different. And then this year we were like, we miss Disney too much. I think we have to go 2 years in a row. And we booked it. And then I think a month later the pandemic happened. And then we had this, and then we had like this weird, because like I'm like that crazy, crazy Disney park nerd that like you either like can't tolerate or like you want to talk about Disney with every day. So we like, and we had this weird holding pattern for a while where we're like, let's see what happens with this thing. And like my family made a pact pretty early that if there weren't any parades, there weren't any shows, there weren't like anything nighttime, just if it was like a day park, we were like, we want to wait until we can enjoy the food. We can enjoy everything we love about Disney. So it got to a point where we're like, I think we have to cancel. And we like rescheduled for August 2021, like crossing fingers. Both of my parents are in healthcare and they feel really, really optimistic about a vaccine soon happening and then being available. But I mean, it was tough because it's somewhere. And today is actually the 49th anniversary of Disney World, funny enough.
Wow.
So I kind of like, I think about Disney all the time. And today I was, I'm going to be back soon and it's going to be really emotional. And Disney this week just laid off a bunch of employees for their parks. And it's sad because their parks business, when there isn't a pandemic, is like their biggest business. Like have you watched the Imagineering story?
The what? No, I don't. I should get into this like you are.
So it's on Disney. Do you have Disney Plus?
I sure do.
Okay, watch it on Disney Plus. It's called The Imagineering Story, and it's basically it's 6 parts. It's about the creation of Disney parks. So beginning of it is Disneyland, of course, and then they do Disney World, and they go back to all the parks with with things that happen in them. But there's Hong Kong Disneyland, Disneyland Paris, and then China, Shanghai Disneyland. It's the coolest. Like I watched it 3 times in full now. It's like the geekdom of my dreams.
I love it.
And like I've bonded, like Dan DeLuca's also like a crazy Disney fan, and like people like that, like we've been getting each other through.
Yeah, that I know there are like the Broadway husbands love.
Then James Eigelhart, Fergie Philippe, Fergie Philippe, who we were talking about before. Damon Gillespie, all of the Newsies and Hamilton people are just like secret Disney nerds.
That's true. Actually, you know what? Speaking of Spring Awakening and Damon, we were watching Rise, which it was so fun. And there's something fun about when you film someone, because I filmed the event, and I love. Okay, we need to talk about Ultimate 54 in a minute, a second, which was so much fun. But having seen someone perform, like, what was it? Get Your Head in the Game, but then then also is performing Spring Awakening. Like this was, and as a football player, anyway, it was just so much fun. I love seeing theater people also thriving like on the screen and seeing Tiffany, man, I got so excited.
But what is she on?
She's on Rise.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
I know.
So long since I watched it when it was on, and I was with Damon the day it got canceled, and he was so sad, and then I just haven't really watched it since.
Wow, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. When I saw Tiffany, I was like, wait, and I did that thing, when you rewind the story for a second and then you film it because you're like, wait, everyone, look at this theater person that I love.
I love doing that with shows I watch. This Is Us is a Telsey cast show, so they cast theater people that live in LA now a lot, and I'm like, oh, who is on it?
Yeah. It's so good. So, okay, let's make sure we talk about a few things. I want to talk about Ultimate 54, but first, let's talk a little bit more about New York Theater Barn.
Yeah, that has been like probably the proudest thing I've done during this pandemic. I don't know. Have you watched it all?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, good. So basically, if you don't watch, so, we're a company that works with musicals and incubation. And as soon as this pandemic happened, we were like, we have to bring our programming online somehow. And we work with StreamYard too now. And we have a show every Wednesday night, and we spotlight 2 musicals a show. And we've been doing it pretty much every week since the end of March, with the exception of like 2 or 3 weeks. And I think after last night, we've done 24 new musicals. We've worked with 50 writers, or even maybe it's like 80 even, and over 200 artists. It's honestly like, it makes me so proud, because so many things in this business are like on a pause right now. But writing musicals is like something you can do from anywhere. And like writers have said to me, like, I'm busier than I've ever been. It's given me more time to do what I want. And, your show has given me something to look forward to. And we can't be together, but we can still show people what we're working on, and in a way virtual. So it's just been like one of the most thrilling things. And I've said this a lot to people, but I really, really feel like we're in the dawn of this renaissance for musical theater, when we can gather again. Like, we're in this theatrical renaissance for plays too. I just think there's so much good work coming now, while we have to like sit at home and keep ourselves busy, and we're making things different and special, and we're writing about now. I think this election has also made people unafraid to write about now, and write about sexuality, write about racism, and about so many things that we think are taboo that we can't talk about. So it's been one of the greatest things. It's been one of the greatest pleasures. If you don't watch our series already, it's Wednesdays at 7. It's on our channel forever after. We've worked with everyone. We've worked with Michael R. Jackson, who we love. We've worked with so many people. We have a writer on next week who has Antonio Cipriano on as her performer. Just so many. It's just been like everything. There have been no boundaries with who we work with. Every kind of show, every kind of writer, and musical theater writers are my favorite people. They're unafraid.
Yeah. It's such a dawning time right now that you can use this opportunity that people who were on Broadway, like Antonio in Jagged Little Pill,
Yeah.
and think, what else can we do? What else can we work with? And Michael R. Jackson, Pulitzer Prize winner. That's amazing. It's certainly it's a great thing that you're doing, and really opening up the experience for so many more people to watch and enjoy. I love getting the little press release for it.
Yeah, and then we have so much other programming too. We're about to announce a roundtable in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from Monday. Joe Iconis is in it. We love Joe. Who else? I should be more prepared for this. York Lee is in it. Jerry Mitchell, Ken Davenport, Stephanie Ibarra, who's the amazing female Latina artistic director of Baltimore Center Stage. I think I'm leaving one person out, but Kirsten Childs, who I'm in love with now. She was on our show last night. But it's an amazing group of people. So we're going to have a conversation about that. We have our choreography lab at the end of October. And one of the shows is, I don't want to talk about it, written by some dude named Ben Kaplan, who I've never heard of, but might be my best friend. So his show is in it. Another show called Sueños is in it. And we're doing it in a live studio, streamed to an audience. So it's dancers working together in person, masked for one of the first times ever. So that's really cool. We're doing that with some musicals again soon, with safety precautions. So we're trying to find ways to incubate while we can't physically be together. And, things in studios, we're making sure you can be together safely without compromising all the work we've done.
So smart, right? Because there's so many aspects of that that you have to think about and worry about, but it seems like you're really making sure that all of your bases are covered.
Yeah. Oh, and I just remember Daniel J. Watts is also in our roundtable.
Ooh, excellent.
Tina and Hamilton.
Yes. That's going to be I'm going to have to turn into this.
Yeah. We're announcing it on Monday.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So why don't we take this opportunity and tell us some of the nonprofits and charities you want to shout out?
Yeah. Oh my God. I have notes. So I'm going to get my notes up. So I want to talk about the election, because everyone on here, I made a joke too. I'm like, are there any Republicans watching this? Can I talk about the election? And I think this is like the biggest election of our life. And I think we need to do everything we can. We need to have a voting plan. We need to do everything So I want to spotlight Producing Blue, who it's founded by Haley Isaacson and Victoria Lee, who are in the Broadway Women's Alliance with me. And they're basically a civil service organization that, they're working with the election and they're trying to make sure people vote blue and produce a better tomorrow. And they're doing a lot of cool things. They have this thing right now called the First Time Voters Club. They're about to do, I don't know if you've seen, it's Erica Henningsen is doing it with them. And I've seen a lot of places that the Gen Z voters we've never had so many new voters that are able to vote than ever before. And the Gen Zers could decide this election, which is so crazy because I think we all kind of rag on Gen Zers sometimes. I kind of do, and I'm sorry. I think you guys are great, and you're the people that are interning with me now. So I shouldn't. You guys are great, but I feel like we don't give them enough credit sometimes because they know technology in a way we don't know. I don't know TikTok. I've never been on TikTok, so I think they're important, and they have this thing called the First Time Voters Club right now. And they're kind of incentivizing people to do things. And then they get in this club with Erica Henningsen. And it's cool. So, I think we need to do things like that. Also power the polls. I have written down there is an influx of people needed at the polls this year to be election workers because the people that were doing that before were older 60 plus people that feel compromised by this pandemic now, and they shouldn't be out now, and I get it. So there's this influx of needed for poll workers now, and Power the Polls is one of the organizations that's kind of recruiting them. I'm going to be a poll worker now, actually, and I did it through Power the Polls. They did a town hall and made sure you were safe, that you knew you were going to get PPE, that it just was something where you didn't feel compromised. So I think any city, you can apply. Every city needs them, especially young people. They're incentivizing it for high school students now, even if they're 17 and up, depending on your state. So I just think now is the time to make a difference. And being a poll worker is just something, it's going to be a long day. I'm going to be there from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., I think. But it's something I don't want to be anywhere else. It's just the coolest thing. So I think being smart about this election, doing what you can. Tuesday night was a shit show, and I'm still getting over it. We have to do what we can to flip the White House and flip the Senate and just do everything because we can't have 4 more years of this.
No, we can't. And certainly, even I've been seeing a lot of people who might be Republicans, but are we can't vote this way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah.
It's not even, it's beyond party lines at this point. It's humanitarian. I can't speak anymore, but humanity is on the line.
Mm-hmm. I phone bank every Monday night with Broadway for Biden, which if you don't and anyone watching doesn't, it's so great. And they teach you everything you need. But yeah, I talk to people who were on the fence and we help change their mind. And there's people who also are not nice as well. And there's people that are great that we're always going to vote blue. But it's whatever you can do. If it's phone banking, it's text banking, if it's writing letters, anything you can do will help.
So well said. Yeah, we need it to change. We need to, if you're out of town or if you don't feel comfortable going to the polls, make sure that you have your out of town ballot. It's really easy. I did it. You just print it from, there's so many different websites that will directly lead you to what you print out, and you just fill out your information.
Yeah, and then they send you back an absentee ballot. It's so easy. They're already going out now. I know my parents voted the other day by absentee. There's no reason not to vote. And there's no reason, do it early. I'm early voting. My best friend's birthday is the first day of early voting. We're going to early vote together. You can find a way. You can be safe, whether it's going to the polls, it's voting early by mail. There is a way to do it.
Now is the time to seize the day.
Yes. It's true, though.
And, there are so many Broadway connections to, now is the time to stand. There's so many Hamilton lines for sure, and Newsies and countless other shows. But it's this is the time that if you want to see theater back on stage, if you want to make sure that theater workers, be it actors, writers, stage hands, that they get the unemployment they need because we're in a pandemic. There's so many different aspects to why why we need to vote, why we need to change things. I mean, it's, the immigrants deserve to have human rights as well. And it's crazy that saying Black Lives Matters has to be a political statement because it's humanity. Black lives matter. Black trans lives matter. That's just a fact.
And it's something like our dear president does not want to say, and it's sad, and it shouldn't have to be that way. Yeah.
It's crazy. And I feel like we are definitely getting very passionate about this, which is good because we need to use this rage and use it for good. And it's really crazy to think that the election, like you said, I mean, it's happening now. People are voting right now.
We're like a month away. It's October 1st. Election day is November 3rd, right?
Right.
It's a Tuesday. It's Tuesday, November 3rd. We are literally a month away.
That's crazy. I know. It's and happy October 1st. Happy
October 1st. Fall is my fave. I'm wearing my plaid today. So
yeah, I specifically wore this color because it was the most like pumpkin color. I have a few Trader Joe's pumpkins.
Oh my God. I don't live near a Trader Joe's, and it's like kind of the best thing ever because I would spend all my money there. But also I need to go because I love pumpkin everything.
And so, wait, I just need to show you. We went, and I was like, I'm getting all things pumpkin.
What is that?
They're pumpkin spice batons. They are like the fancy, like, oh, there it is. They're so good. They're like little pumpkin cream filled things.
Don't do that. That sounds so good. It's the closest Trader Joe's to me is like 20 blocks and like 2 avenues away from me, so it's like not that far, but it's like far enough where I can justify not going.
Right. And having to carry. I know now that we've been driving to get groceries, I'm like, oh, right. You don't have to take a subway and like transfer and have to carry all these subway. Oh my gosh.
Well, I'm dreading. There's a Target that's about to open literally across from my apartment. And like, I'm like Target and Trader Joe's are my vices. So we'll see what happens. I'm dreading it.
Yes, I could imagine. It's a struggle out there. It's a struggle for sure. But I do want to make sure to talk about Ultimate 54 because it's so much fun. I watched some of those videos that are up on YouTube and y'all can watch too. And it's what was the genesis of that?
Yeah, so that was the product of me and Ben Kaplan. If you don't know Ben Kaplan, he's a musical theater writer. He's also like my best friend, and he will kill me if I don't say this, but like it was more his idea than mine, because I always kill him when he doesn't give me credit for things. So Ben, I'm giving you more credit than me. But we were gonna present something else on this day, and he was actually strangely not even involved with the project that was originally on this date because he normally does everything with me. And this project didn't happen for some reason. And I said to Ben, I'm like, I have to fill this date with something because I don't like saying what I'm supposed to do and not doing it. And I said, you've been working on this game show idea. Like, do you want to like fast forward and make it happen? And he's like, let me think about it for a day. And then he kind of sent me back this like basically outline, which was like ended up being what Ultimate 54 Challenge was. And I kind of finessed it with him, and we made this thing together that we co-produced, and he was music directing. He never produces anything. Like, this is the only thing he's ever produced, and we like laugh about it. But it kind of became this thing really fast, and we got our friend Anna Roisman involved, who she hosts HQ Trivia, and we only asked our friends the first time because we're like, who's gonna do this that doesn't know us and doesn't trust us? So it ended up being this crazy, crazy game show where we make all of our performers drink 2 glasses of alcohol before the show. I think we do one before and then one on stage, and we get them their drink of choice, whether that's like a tequila sunrise or like a beer, and they have to do games. So the first round is like them against each other for a game. Then there's like a second round that's like trivia, and then they have a final sing-off round where 2 of them get to that round and they have to sing a song, but there's like a catch. So the first one, Izzy McCalla, we love Izzy McCalla, and Lauren Marcus got to the final 2, and we tell them all what song they have to sing ahead so they're prepared and memorized, but we don't tell them what they have to do. And then, only two of the 8 people ended up getting to the end. So Izzy was told she had to sing from Sister Act. What am I even on? Not Sister Act. Sideshow. She had to sing Who Will Love Me As I Am from Sideshow, which is about sisters. So maybe that's where my mind was going. And we told her on the spot, you have to sing it with a penguin puppet and you have to do a different character for each penguin. And she did that beautifully. It's on your channel. And then Lauren Marcus, who we knew had done Company as Amy at Barrington Stage and was amazing as Amy, we said, oh, you have to sing Being Alive from Company and you have to make a cake at the same time and then eat it on stage. And she didn't know half the words, but owned it so hard. And then we judged by applause who wins, and Lauren won. And it was crazy, crazy, crazy. The second one we did the week before the pandemic. That's the last time I saw you.
Right.
And that was just as crazy. That one, the final two, was Bryn Williams, who I love, one of my good friends, Bryn Williams, and Gianna Yanelli from Mean Girls. And Bryn had to sing Memory while putting on cat's makeup. And Gianna had to sing Part of Your World from The Little Mermaid while having her legs and feet saran wrapped like she was a mermaid. And then she had to, you know, those like things, like the game you play where you like put the thing in your mouth and you have to try to talk and like figure out what you're saying. The plastic thing, she had to put one of those in her mouth because like Ariel loses her voice. I just have to say, like, Ben is the reason, like, we like think of all of these challenges together, but half of them are so good because his mind is insane. And he's like, oh, she like can't sing. We should like give her a mouthpiece. So it's not like, Ben, I give you credit for making this as good as it is. I help you, but like you were the reason it's so good. Like you heard it here. I never say this to him. So she had to put this mouthpiece in and like sing. And then she, like, we measured the applause and like by such a gradual little thing, she won Gianna. But it's crazy. It's like the craziest night. We can't wait to do it again. It's one of those things, like, unfortunately, I don't think we can do it again until the pandemic is over and there's a vaccine, because it's like so much about like touching other people and audience participation. And it's sanitizing the mic. Like, and like, that's with a lot of shows, honestly, were, you know, big group shows, but that's one where I just think it's so much about safety. And even then we did the last one, honestly, like 6 days before Broadway shut down. And like, we knew that COVID was a thing then, but it wasn't like, it became such a thing the week following. And I remember like, we made like jokes about hand sanitizer that night, but like, we had no idea.
Wow. It is crazy to think back to those times and think like, they made it seem like it wasn't as big of a deal as we now know it is and was, and to think that, you know, we were making those jokes and not wearing masks because they said, oh, masks don't really make that big of a difference. And it's like, what? But I agree. I mean, the joy of that show so much is the interactive nature of it.
Yeah.
And it's not so many things, like you could say it's not the same, but something like that where like you have to just be willing to give yourself over to whatever the challenge is. You want to also feel very safe and comfortable doing it.
Yeah, and like we will do it again. Like 54 Below, like I don't know the rumors you've heard, but like 54 Below is like will be back. We will do the show again among all the other shows I produce, and because it's one of the funnest shows like I've ever done, and we're gonna do it. I have not been in the same room as Ben Kaplan for over 6 months now, which is like more sad than the show itself. So that's a thing, but we'll do the show again. It's going to happen. We're going to be together again. We just have to wait.
Wait for it.
Wait for it.
Oh, wow. Yes, it's going to happen. We will be back. We just need to take our deep breaths and wash our hands and vote and get through this pandemic together.
Yeah. And like 54 Below, like, is one of my favorite places. It's where I've done some of my favorite things. Like, I don't know if you watched the Legally Blonde reunion we did in quarantine during this pandemic. Like, I did that show 3 years ago at 54, and I got all the ladies back on Zoom, like things like that. Like, I love what 54 Below has given people, and like, I can't wait for that again. I can't wait for a Joe Iconis Christmas show again. I can't wait for all of the things, a Broadway Princess Party, and I Wish, which is a show I love doing with Alexandra Silber. I just can't wait for all of those things again that we love so much.
Ooh, actually, that's a great point. Can you talk about that line that the gear?
Oh, yeah. So we did a virtual I Wish which sounds like ages ago now. It was May 22nd. And I can remember the date because that was the date of my bat mitzvah years and years ago. But we did this virtual version of I Wish. And if you don't know what I Wish is, it's a show I produced with Alexandra Silver. And she basically had this idea on a tweet and we turned it into a show. And it's, I wish I could have played this role. And I haven't played this role for, I didn't get cast. I typed out, I aged out, I'm the wrong gender. It isn't going to happen for any reason. And it's this show that we'd been doing at 54 Below. And then we did a pandemic version and we had like Nick Walker singing Roger from Rent. We had Nicholas Barish, my lovely redheaded friend, Nicholas Barish singing I'm Changing My Major to Joan from Fun Home. Elizabeth Stanley did a song from Waitress. It was so beautiful, and I think gave the show new meaning. And Al always has this like inspirational speech at the end where she talks about how, this person didn't do this until they were this age. This person didn't do this. We all have our own path for a reason. And she said this quote at the end that was special to this pandemic version. And she said, I believe artists will be the essential workers of tomorrow. And everyone was talking about it after the next few days about how important it was what she said. So then we had this amazing artist, her name is Tiffany. She made a print for us and we put it on redbubble.com if you search for it. And it says the quote, artists will be the essential workers of tomorrow. And you can get it on shirts, you can get it on notebooks, you can get it on sweatshirts, bags, everything. And all of the money is going to the Actors Fund and the 54 Below Unemployed Workers Fund.
So good. I'm so glad we talked about that.
Yeah.
When I saw it, I was like, oh, this is so good and warms my heart. And I everything. And Jelani, Remy doing the Disney medley.
Yeah. And Ben, can I just say, Ben did tracks for everyone, did not take any money because it was a benefit. And it was just the greatest night.
What a mensch.
What a mensch. He'll be happy you said that because he's not a mensch, but
a mensch by association, an honorary mensch.
We called him, Michael Kushner and I called him an old Jewish man the other day, and he agreed with us.
That's I like that. That's a good one. So where can everyone find you on social media? And are there any last words that you'd like to share with everyone?
Yeah, you can find me everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, and at Jen Sandler, JenSandler, just like the name on the screen. We were saying how I have a very easy name and it makes it easy for things. You can find me there. You can follow New York Theater Barn as well. And follow 54 Below. But yeah, I mean, last words, like, what do you want me to say?
I always like to leave room if there's something you came into today wanting to make sure to share with the viewers.
Yeah, I mean, I've said so much. I mean, I just hope everyone is staying like well during this thing and like doing whatever it is, whether it's something that you like are embarrassed to tell people. I mean, I've been watching Hallmark movies during this pandemic because I don't like watching stressful things. So like I like watching them because she's going to get the guy, you don't know how. So I like doing things like that. I've been reading books more than ever. Right now I'm reading, I think I have it right here. I'm reading Something Borrowed right now. I read another book I love called Red, White, and Royal Blue at the beginning of this pandemic that like everyone is reading.
Yeah, I need to read that.
It's so good. But like pick up a book, watch a really dumb TV show that you've never watched, or binge watch your favorite show again. Like I watched Boy Meets World the first half of this quarantine. Just do something. Give yourself permission to have you time. Do something stupid. The Masked Singer just started again. Watch The Masked Singer. Like, it's okay. You don't have to be perfect all the time. You don't have to be working all the time. I always make sure I give myself time every day to kind of just like veg and be a person when I'm not working.
That's great advice, and I think we could all use it. I watched Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, the first part of this pandemic, and now I just want to watch it again because it's so good. Yeah, but yeah, and y'all can find me at B-Way Show, as you see all across here on the screen. Created by my friend Chelsea Hill, really upgraded.
We love Chelsea Hill.
We sure do. Mm-hmm. So I always love to give her a shout out. I love how she glammed this up. And she actually helped make she totally illustrated my B-Way Show, the podcast look, which is so cool. She took my photo from the Tony Awards and like, it made it an illustration, and it was so cool, and it still is so cool. So thank you, Chelsea. You are brilliant.
She's awesome. She, when like West 42nd Street magazine is like a thing again, like I love her drawings there. She just like promote all the ladies, give all the ladies the jobs in theater, whatever you can. She's like one of the good ones.
Yes. One of the good ones.
One of the good ones.
Yes. That's amazing. And we have the Showtreons. It's a B-Way Show Patreon, and it's a fun squad. We do weekly trivia and monthly video chats, and we're going to have a Halloween little fun party to get dressed up. So if y'all are interested in that, head over to patreon.com/B-Way Show. And that's enough of that. Jen, this was so lovely. I'm so glad that we got to catch up, and thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, I missed you. I can't wait to see you in person again. It's been too long.
You too. I know. Well, we'll be safe, and we will obviously keep in touch, and then I'll see you when theater.
You.
Bye, friend. Thank you. See you at the show.